Hello everyone and welcome to episode 65 of this Let's Play series of Star Trek Online. My name is Winters and you are very welcome. Now before I actually get into this episode, I want to quickly refer back to the previous episode, some things that I left out. Do you remember the elite marks I was talking about? Like this, for example, the Iconian probe data core, the Voth cybernetic implants, Borg neural processors, those things, the elite marks. I forgot to mention that those only come from advanced PvE queues or higher, or in the case of the battle zones, when you get to the boss levels, or the boss stages. Excuse me. So yeah, that's where they come from. I forgot to mention that. So that is the only place that you can actually get them. You need to do advanced difficulty or higher. There is an option, however, within each of the different reputations. If you click here, you can turn marks. So, for example, here, 100 Iconian marks and get 1 Iconian probe data core. If I click on Terran Task Force, we can see the same thing. 100 Terran marks and we get 1 Terran gravimetric inducer. That can only be done once every 20 hours. So that is how you get the elite marks. It was just something that I left out of the previous episode and I wanted to mention it at the start of this one. Something else that I left out in the last episode was I have been gradually upgrading my ship. You may notice some differences here. Like, for example, I have a Mark 12 rare deflector now. I have a Mark 10 turret in here. My ultimate plan is to have 3 turrets in the back here and all cannons up at the front. You see I have a Mark 10 phaser beam array. The only reason why I picked that was it was an upgrade from the Mark 8 phaser that was there, and it was better than nothing, basically. So I decided to go with that. But if I get another turret, it will replace this one and eventually this one. You will also see I've got a Mark 11 cannon and a Mark 12 cannon there. I've got some Mark 12 consoles here, and this is a rare Mark 12 shield emitter. So yeah, I've been gradually updating my build with loot drops that I have been getting from doing the space battle zone as well as PvE queues, space PvE queues. I've been gradually updating my gear. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but when you're doing your build, stick to one damage type. So for example, this is a phaser dual cannon, phaser dual cannon, phaser dual cannon, phaser dual cannon, phaser, phaser, and phaser. Always stick with the same damage type. And the other thing is, you're better off to stick to the same type of weapons. In this case, cannons. Turrets act the same as cannons, as in both are buffed by cannon rapid fire or cannon scatter volley. So yeah, you need to maximize and keep everything the same. The idea being, if you have, let's say, all phaser cannons and all phaser turrets, then you buff them all up with phaser relays and you buff up that damage, so you always keep the same stuff together. So yeah, I'm not sure that I actually mentioned that before, but there it is anyway. That's something that you need to do. I'm sorry if I did omit that, or forget to mention it, I should say, in previous episodes, but always stick to the same type of damage type and weapons. If you do what's known as a skittle build, you will only be tickling your targets. You won't be killing them, you'll only be tickling them, and you'll be wondering why you're finding it so hard to kill enemies, and that will be why. The skill tree is a big part of that as well, obviously. In fact, it's a very big part, but yeah, it's all about getting the right combinations, you know, to buff things up to their maximum potential. Anyway, moving on to what this episode is going to focus on. You remember, again, actually, in the last episode, we talked about in the Admiralty system that the final reward that you got for completing the Federation campaign was 2 specialization points. You can see it right there. Well, when you hit level 51 in the game, you unlock a new system called Specialization. We can see it here. We've gone to the skill tree and we can see here Specialization. Now if we click on that, a list opens up and we have Command Officer, Intelligence Officer, Pilot, Temporal Operative, Commando and Strategist. Now let's just pick on one of them, for example. So Command Officer, for every level starting at level 51 and continuing past level 60, so continuing past level 60, every time you level up, you will get 1 specialization point. And specialization points can be spent within the specialization windows. Basically, they are buffs and abilities that will help make you a better, I suppose, player. Like, for example, this particular one here, if we actually have, we can see down here at the bottom, we have 5 specialization points. So this gives a plus 1% chance exposed targets to torpedo exploits. Torpedo exploits gain plus 50 armor penetration. So that's pretty good for torpedoes. If we look at this one, plus 2% bonus all damage per teammate above 95% health or hull capacity. So that particular one affects both ground and space. This one, which is energy signature flux, plus 10 defense for 10 seconds. It's a space skill. This one is a ground skill, plus 25% dodge chance for 10 seconds. This is another space skill, plus 5% hull healing received. And another ground skill, plus 5% healing received for ground. So you can see how these can make a big difference to a build and to your overall effectiveness and abilities that you can do. Right, so specializations. Currently there is 1, 2, 3, 4. These are main specializations. Now what is meant by main specializations is there is a total of 30 points that can be spent within them. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay, so this is known as a main specialization or a primary specialization. If I go to all the rest, we can see the same thing. They're all done in the same way. Pilot, see, temporal operative. There we go. So there's a total of 4 tier levels. Now, if we go to Commando, this is a secondary specialization only, meaning it has only 2 tiers, Tier 1, Tier 2. And you can have 1 primary specialization active at any one time, and 1 secondary active at any one time. So in this case, we can see here by this icon, alright, it's a Roman numeral for 1. Pilot is currently active, and we can see here active primary. Click there. It is currently activated as our primary specialization. And if we click on Commando, we can see secondary. If I click on Strategist, which is also a secondary only specialization, I can activate this one. Activate secondary. Now, see the icon is down here. So, Command Officer, I would say, is probably more geared towards team abilities and possibly engineering captains. If you're a tank / healer, something like that. That's how I would categorize that particular specialization. Intelligence Officer, That's a bit of everything. It's got some good tactical stuff with it. My advice is go through all the specializations and look through all the different abilities and see which one best suits your playstyle and your build. Pilot is definitely, I would categorize as tactical. It's it's all about obviously piloting a ship and putting out damage, stuff like that. Temporal operative, I would say, is more sciency. Yeah, I suppose that's best how I'd categorize that. A lot of stuff on exotic damage and things like that. Commando, as a secondary specialization, is ground only. Only ground. Everything here, both levels, all 15 abilities, are only for ground. Simple as that. Commando is for ground. And Strategist is... how would I categorize this one? It's a bit of everything again, really. It's a good one for tacticals. I suppose it can be a good one for engineering as well, really. But yeah, I'm going to go back to what I originally said. Your best bet is to go through all of the specializations, all primaries and secondaries, and look at them and decide for yourself which ones suit you best. Now, if, for example, you find that, let's say, intelligence officer suits you best, and you go, right, okay, I definitely want that one to be my primary, but you definitely don't want commando because you're thinking about space, okay, we'll just say that, and you find that strategist is not that great for you, but you find that pilot is also pretty good and works for your build. Now, you see here, we also have the option to activate this as a secondary. Not only as a primary, but or rather we can activate it as a secondary. So we just click on that. And now what that means, or what it has done, is we are now using the first 2 tiers of this as secondary abilities. So what that means is, let's imagine that we have all 30 points spent in here. Okay? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. All 30 points are spent. If we have this activated as a secondary specialization, we are only using the first 15. 5, 10, 15. We are not using any of these ones here if it is activated as a secondary specialization. Alright, so that's very important to keep in mind. You are only using the first 15 abilities. That is it, if the specialization is activated as a secondary. In this case, I'm going to activate it as a primary for myself, and I'm going to activate strategist as my secondary. I have no points spent in them at the minute, so it don't really matter them until I do start spending points. Now, what is the next thing that I should be talking about? Right. Each specialization also comes with a starship trait. One comes once you have spent 15 points within any of the specializations, and if it is a primary, a second one comes, which is basically the very same as the first one. It's just got better stats, which is usually an improved. So if we look at this here, where I'm mousing over right now, it says space skill, improve pedal to the metal. That is a starship trait. I think it's here, is it? Yeah, there. Pedal to the metal, starship trait. Alright, but this is improved pedal to the metal. And this does plus 2% all damage bonus per 2 seconds spent at full throttle, up to a max of plus 20%. All bonus immediately lost if your throttle is dropped. A plus 20% to your bonus damage pretty big. So if I click on traits here, and you remember right here, starship traits, we pointed it out before, but we didn't really talk about it. That is one way where you can get starship traits, is by spending points within the specialization. Now, the way this system is designed is for you to go through all the specializations and find one that suits you best, or that suits you or your build best, and pick it, and that's it. You stick with it, and you start spending points in it, and you eventually fill it out, and then you go to your secondary and you start spending points in that, and you fill that one out, and from there then you just start picking other specializations and eventually start filling them all out, and you will fill every single one of these out. So even though there was only 60 levels in the game, remember what I said, the system unlocks at level 51. So when you hit level 51, you get your first specialization point. 52, you get your second. 53, your third. And it continues on that way. When you hit level 60, you will be on your, 9th point. When you level up again, you'll remain 60. Now what I mean by level up is, see this bar here, this white bit? You may have noticed that progresses up as we earn skill points or expertise. When it fills up and overflows, that is considered a level up. We will not progress any further than level 60, but this bar will continue to fill up and eventually overflow, and we get a specialization point even after level 60. So we have 30, 60, 90, 120, a total of 150 levels essentially, just through the specialization system. So you will eventually fill all of these out. Now, let's see, what is the next thing I should be saying about it? Right, each of them has some bonus things. So, example here, while the pilot specialization is active, you will gain a 10% increase to your starship turn rate. This bonus increases by a small amount for each point spent in the specialization. So as we spend points in the specialization, we will gain a 10% increase in our starship turn rate. So current point spent 0, current bonus 10% turn rate. Let's see. I'm going to spend my first point in here now, and we purchase this. See what just happened there? That was at 10%. We now have 1 point in there. Our current bonus is 11%. It's gone up. If I spend another point, that will go up, I would imagine, to 12. So I'm going to spend a point here, and let's have a look. Yep, it's now up to 12. So every specialization has something like that in it. If I click on Strategist, while the Strategist specialization is active, you will gain a 5% increase to your maximum shield capacity. This bonus increases by a small amount for each point spent in the specialization. So we look here, we have 0 points spent in it. Current bonus for space plus 5% maximum shield capacity. So I'm imagining that will probably go up by 0.5% for every point spent in it, I would imagine. I'm not going to spend a point now because I want to focus on my pilot. So I'm going to finish spending my 5 points that I have earned here into pilot. And if we look, we now have a 15% bonus turn rate. That has gone up. Let's see, is there anything else? Once you have 10 points spent in any of the specializations, you can then train any of your bridge officers to become a specialist. What I mean by that is, there are certain ships, for example, that are known as pilot ships, meaning that they have bridge officer stations that can use pilot bridge officer abilities. So I could, once I have 10 points spent in this qualification, I could turn Alyssa here into a tactical pilot hybrid bridge officer, and she would be able to learn pilot bridge officer bridge officer abilities. We can see here, if I click on specialization, you have a learn button beside each of the different specializations, and actually I forgot to point this out, it only applies to primary specializations. Secondary ones, i.e. commando and strategist, are not available for that. So let's see, how do I explain how this works? Yes, so there's 10 points spent in there. What you do is you click on the DOF button and go to R&D, and you go to officer training, and this is where you will be able to craft qualifications to train your bridge officers in. So it would require you to craft, let's say 4 or 5 items, and then you craft a qualification, and it will end up in your inventory, and you can put it in your bank or whatever. And then you go to one of your bridge officers and you click on specialization, and let's just imagine pilot, and you click learn, and that's it. The bridge officer will then become in this case, tactical pilot hybrid, and you could use pilot abilities in any of these 4 bridge officer slots or abilities. So I think that is it. I think I've covered everything. Yeah, starship traits, primaries, secondaries, spending points. Yeah, I think that's it. I hope it's complete anyway. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them below. And thanks a million for watching. It is very, very much appreciated. My name is Winters, and until next time, I guess we will leave it there. So as always, please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Until then, bye bye.